Okay, it's now 4:02, and I'll call to order the meeting of the Finance Committee for Thursday, February 22nd. Before we get into the agenda, which we're going to take a little bit out of order, I will ask if there's any public comment on issues not already on the agenda. No? Okay. I have here approval for minutes, most of which I think we took up last time. Is that right? Yeah. Everything but February 20th, and I haven't had a chance to review the minutes from the 20th, so I'll ask for permission to put that off. Great. Okay, Contract Review Committee, we discussed that last meeting also. And then we'll jump into review and discussion and motions for annual town meeting warrant articles. Libby, you've asked that we take zoning and real estate articles later, right? Okay. Yeah, great. So Leslie responded to that request, and she'll be here at 4:30. So we have at least until then. Okay. Find our place where we left off
66.
last. Do we want to jump back to the top? There's probably some things that we can. Yeah.
We've added some stuff in. Yeah, that's on. You want to drag it over to your chair? Well, I got an email that said people can't hear people in the audience speaking.
We should get like a live comment feed. We can hear back as people complain.
That'd be busy.
Yeah.
That'd be busy.
Just right down like here, we can see what people at home are doing.
Like a scroll.
Yeah.
CNN scroll.
I like it.
Well, if I might divert for one quick second, speaking of that, we had a request a month or so ago for someone at town meeting, a hearing impaired person, to line up a cart reporter, which they do, they type in stuff and it comes right up live. And now the person, it turns out, is moving off island, so she's not even going to be at town meeting. So now we're mulling over, well, should we still have them? The cost is probably, she gave us an hourly rate, so we had to work it out. It's probably less than $2,000 to set up a separate screen. Any input? We were sort of thinking maybe we ought to try it, see what it's like.
In what format does the text come out? I mean, how? It
comes out, I guess, typed.
Okay.
Phonetically.
So she'll type in what anybody says, and it'll come up on the screen, but I don't know how exactly it looks.
Right. Well, who can access that? Do you have to be in the room, or could you get that at home? I know we have.
You would only get it at home if the NCTV camera is on that screen, I think.
Got it.
I checked around a bit. There are a couple of other towns, I think Sandwich possibly being one, and a couple others on the Cape that use the person.
Well, I could see it being valuable if you could scroll backward and see what people had said before. But if it's all live and then it's gone once it reaches the top of the screen, then I don't see a lot of value in it. Not understanding whatever the person's needs were that prompted the request in the first place.
Do we have a requirement for people with disabilities to have a?
If someone with a hearing impairment asks, then we must provide something. It doesn't have to be a cart. It could be a signer potentially. But yeah, so nobody else has asked, but it's a little bit out there now.
Well, maybe if the town's IT personnel could work it out that it's on its own page and you could scroll back, and that would be neat, I think.
All right, let me get a little more info about it.
Okay. So we did not take action on Articles 1 we did take action on Article 1. Article 2 we did not, I think because we were waiting for language, and it appears to be in. Has everybody gotten the email that Julia just sent around with all the updated language?
Yeah, it just came out.
Great. Okay, so this is appropriation for unpaid bills. And great. We have three different subtotals here: $2,477, $12,897, and $2,633.01. Can I get a motion on Article 2?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You're going to check these for typos, right?
Yeah, if you see anyone.
Okay.
Article 2, Finance Committee.
Oh, yes. Yes, thank you. Hopefully that'll
Nice.
be cut and spell check, but anyway.
Okay, Article 3, Finances. We now have a motion in here for the Road Repairs Fund. Can I get a motion on Article 3?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 4 and 5 are taken care of. Okay, on to Article 8,
Article 6 you'll be seeing on March 5th. That's from
the last ones, okay. Article 8, the General Fund Operating Budget. Are there any changes here from previous versions of the budget, or we've just inserted it in here now? Okay.
This is tied exactly to what was presented
At earlier meetings.
on the Saturday.
Great. Okay, may I have a motion on Article 8?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
$81 million.
Yeah, poof.
10, 11, 12, and 13, and 14 are also going to be at the next meeting. If I may, let me just explain a little bit.
Sure.
General fund CapEx, we know what's being recommended, but the format is different. The funding sources, capital is leaving one of the funding sources, and we need to confirm with bond council and whatnot to make sure that we just so that's one. We're waiting for enterprise fund operations. We are discussing with OIH. If you saw their last quarterly report, they're coming in a little bit short on revenue due to lower capacity, or utilization, I should say. And so we're trying to see if there's going to be any impact in 19. And so we're in discussions with, or even have through the existing director, we're having discussions with the new incumbent. So these are things that are happening right now, but you will get more information. We have to give ourselves a little bit of flexibility there.
Thank you.
Enterprise fund CapEx, we're just waiting for the water company and whether they're going to do retained earnings for some of their projects. We haven't gotten final budget transfers are usually very last minute with as much information as you can have. Prior year articles are almost tied up, or tied. Should be sent to you soon. So the next one that you would potentially review is Article 17, which has the review language from bond council.
Okay, so the figure is the same as we saw on Tuesday, but this is bond council approved language. I still see, where do we mention the $1 million grant? Has that been addressed?
It looks like you don't have.
It just says, let's see, sort of 3/4 of the way down, the line starts with "of a Prop 2.5 debt exclusion vote," and provided further that the amount of the authorized borrowing shall be reduced by the amount of any grant funds
Yep.
received. That was the wording that,
Okay, so that allows for the flexibility
Yeah.
for, okay. Great. And-
and it's also up even more than that, maybe a quarter of the way down. Board of Selectmen and the town manager are authorized to apply for and accept any grant from the Seaport Council or otherwise for the project. So it's covered there and then
Yeah.
a little below.
Great.
Move to adopt as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next one would be Article 23, county assessment.
May I have a motion on 23?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have been held because of 23 having not been voted, and so I think now you might be ready to vote.
Yep. May I have a motion on Article 24?
Motion to adopt?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 25 will hold. Article 27, just before I called the meeting to order, I forwarded to everybody here some correspondence that I had with Tucker Holland regarding an issue that relates to the discussion we had about Article 27 on Tuesday. I'll give time for everybody to read it, and we can take action on this next week. But the gist of the discussion is that after some direction from the Board of Selectmen, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund has formally adopted a plan to re-engage, let me get her name correct, Judy Barrett, who's the person who put together or spearheaded writing the housing production plan, which was adopted in 2016. So Judy will be re-engaged by the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to help the fund develop an operations and spending plan. So that is very much in line with what the Finance Committee recommended in its appropriation, in its $500,000 appropriation at annual town meeting 2017. So I think that addresses the concerns that I had and that other members of the committee had. But again, I just sent that email around, so I'll give people some time to digest it, and we'll bring this back up at our next meeting and take a formal motion and final action on 27. So we'll jump to 28, which is not ready to go. We're down to
31?
31 appears to be ready. Okay. May I have a motion on Article 31, the renewal of the septic system betterment loan program?
Move to adopt?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And then we get into zoning. Where do we get back out of zoning?
I think we left off, let's say 60.
66 was the last one. We stopped right before 66 on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yes, 66.
I have that we didn't do anything on 65. Is that correct? Yeah. And I think 65 is something that we can act on. We have a drafted motion here not to adopt, and that I think is based on correspondence which everybody's seen from town council. May I have a motion on 65?
Move to adopt.
That was a motion not to adopt, Henry?
Yes.
Okay. Second?
I gotta find my spot.
Can I get discussion?
Can you just hang on a second?
Yeah.
This was not the one that we talked about recommending over to the Government Study Committee. That was a different one.
No, this is that one.
So does it need a comment?
It does need a comment.
In that
And I think
regard?
Yeah.
one of the holdups was I said that I was going to send this email to the government study, see what they thought
Oh,
about the
right.
motion. And the chairman was lukewarm about the
Who
motion.
is the chair for that?
John Brescher.
No, John.
He felt that his committee perhaps wasn't necessarily equipped to do this sort of review
Hmm.
and thought they might need some professional assistance.
He's an attorney.
Yes.
He's who I would call if I wanted that reviewed.
They, I think he felt it was just a little more than they had bargained for.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I looked on the website this morning, and I saw there's co-chairs, so maybe we just get the answer from the other parent.
Or maybe they just figure it out.
Okay.
And if they need to ask for assistance, they can.
So John was not, he was lukewarm about moving not to adopt. Is that what he said?
He was
didn't like.
lukewarm about the comment.
Oh, I see.
Sorry, about this motion that was suggested by town council
I see.
to refer it to the government study committee.
Got it. I
So,
don't.
in here, I didn't even get that far to make.
Okay,
that-
so we haven't seen what John's seen, which is, I mean, I'm looking at Article 65, and I just see that there's a draft motion which is moved not to adopt. So you
Yes.
sent him something further than
I
that.
sent him the town council email.
I see.
Which you sent to us.
Which I sent to you, which has a
Right.
draft motion
Okay.
that basically refers 65 to the town government study committee for further study, blah, 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 blah. So if you guys want to do,
So that could be left for the comment in any case, so we can take action on this motion, and then we'll
Yeah.
leave the comment.
Sorry about that. I think I got you out of order a little bit. I was looking ahead to the comment, but I'm fine with the
Move not to
motion.
adopt. Okay. So Henry's made the motion, it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Again, not to adopt, correct?
Not to adopt.
Article,
So we're just moving, we're not going to handle the comment today, is that?
right.
Okay. But I think the comment's going to be important there, because I think conceptually, as at
Well-
least me, I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, we're on board conceptually if we could get over the
Yeah.
structural limitations, so we don't want to leave that. The comment's important, that's my only point.
Yeah. So I'm comfortable with the comment. If we want to take up discussion and action on that now, I'm comfortable with the comment that was drafted by town council or proposed by town council, unless there's some other information, Libby, that's going to be
I mean,
coming forward.
if the government study committee ultimately says that we're not equipped to do this and we're not really going to do it, then I'm not sure where we are at that point, other than probably not really doing anything, so.
Okay. Well, they could, decide not to take it on.
Yeah.
It could still be referred to them, and they say
And-
it's above
and
our pay grade.
alternatively, they could make a recommendation to refer it to town administration or
Okay.
HR or,
I just want to make sure there's a proactive step that, if not that, then it moves on to
Yeah.
something else, so
Mm.
this issue doesn't get dropped without somebody.
Okay, so maybe we need to add on to what town council's drafted, in which case we should take this up later.
yeah, maybe,
Okay.
maybe.
Refer
I
back
mean,
to the town manager, is that?
I don't really know, but something like refer to the town government study or Board of Selectmen to determine the proper,
Well,
Entity.
this is someone providing an answer to how you're going to harmonize the personnel policies for non-unionized executives in the three biggest chunks of sort of general administration, the airport, and the water company, right? I mean, that's the problem.
that's
Yeah.
the problem.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but it could be sort of a big job, trying to figure out how to fix the town charter and propose the rule changes.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that's what's being asked. What was really just being recommended here is that the government study committee examine the benefits and compensation that are provided to those groups of employees in those three funds
Right.
and determine if they're consistent with other town departments or not. And I think the answer already is they're not. That's why the article is in the first place.
Right, but as I remember John Giorgio's email.
Oh, sorry, and make a recommendation.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
how to fix it is the big job, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and the how to fix it part, I think, is a charter change. So mostly as what town council seems to be saying. and possibly a home rule petition in the case of the water company.
One
So-
would expect, oh, sorry, Joe.
No,
One would expect that the government study would address the compensation, benefits, personnel structure of the town in terms of general principles. We as a town want to run it this way
Yeah.
and expect it to be X, Y, Z.
Yeah,
So therefore, this is its first home. I would offer that they may turn around and say, but we don't have the HR experience to get into the how do you harmonize this stuff. So we would make a so I'd give it to them. I would expect them to sit there in the first pass and say, this is what we've observed. This is what our end goal is. We can't do that bridge ourselves.
Yeah.
An expert needs to do that.
yeah,
But these are the two pieces. We have both shorelines,
Yeah.
if you will, of the
Yeah.
bridge. That was
so
a
if they
terrible
need,
analogy.
I think if they need assistance with it, legal or otherwise, then we'll get it.
So maybe the comment could be something about it's referred to the government study group because it's the one that makes the most sense and is part of their remit, and the execution of it may potentially need expert assistance or something to give them the idea that they don't then have to do the heavy lifting. Is that a way
Yeah,
of,
something like that would be okay with me.
what does everybody think?
That, it's agreeable to me. I don't know if is that in a format we can vote on right now?
Not really.
Yeah, let's just put it off and we can.
Okay, so at our next meeting, we will finish.
So who will wordsmith the comment, I guess is my question.
I think
Yeah,
Libby
I can
has
work on it and send
notes.
it around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Article 68 has no motion. I think we're headed in the direction of taking no action on that, but maybe that's not ready yet.
Are we going to 66?
66.
I'm
Parking
sorry.
benefit?
Yes, 66.
So there's a motion drafted here that would authorize the Board of Selectmen to designate one of our parking benefit districts. And we're having a discussion internally now about how a parking benefit district could potentially work, including what impact it might have on the general fund or not. And if they're, in order to do this, you need to have a parking system that is going to bring in, let me back up. The reason this is in the warrant in the first place is because the Board of Selectmen has been discussing paid parking. And the revenue from the paid parking it would be expected to go towards either the funding of that program, it would be expected to go towards the funding of that program, as well as downtown improvements for parking and traffic circulation, things like that, sidewalk repairs, those types of things. And possibly even, depending on how much revenue is ultimately collected, maybe it would also go towards your own shuttle service or expansion of seasonal shuttle service or shuttle service in some manner. So this was viewed as the first step towards getting the structure set up that would be needed for the funds to go into when we have the paid parking set up. And that setup is not completed yet. We're in the process of probably engaging a consultant to help us design the system that we're going to be using. But ultimately, I think the idea is that there would be additional revenue above and beyond what's collected by the fines. And that money should not go into the general fund. It should go to dedicated parking-related projects and improvements and
Okay.
operations.
Why is that, Libby? Why is that helpful? There must be a reason that it be dedicated in that way, rather than just let it go into the general fund?
Well, good question. This article came from planning. It didn't come from town admin. And I had a sort of a similar concern, because I don't want the general fund to be impacted in any way by, say there would be a lowering of parking fines somehow if we have a paid parking system. Then there's going to be an impact on the general fund, and we need to just understand what the balance is between the revenue coming in potentially and the fines. There needs to be a lot more financial analysis of the whole thing.
I mean, aren't you just limiting flexibility? Because you could, any of those projects you could just decide to do, right? I mean, it's like a parking diff, right?
You could, but, so there is that perspective, and the board and the planning perspective, I think, was that rather than having the money go into the general fund where it could be spent on anything,
Mhm.
people would feel more comfortable if the fees and if the fees they're paying to park went into something parking related.
But what if there's no use for the funds that's parking related? Like, what if we decide that, there's a pay for parking system that adjusts people's behavior in the way that we want, has the desired outcome, and then we don't also then need to have a garage or whatever else this might, be designed to do. Now we have money that's sequestered, can't be used for anything but parking. So, at that point, what do we do?
You could rescind this and have it go back into the general fund. There would be a process for that. And we haven't even, Brian's saying maybe we would do an enterprise fund. We had a discussion with the town of Salem, the city of Salem, the other day about this, because they are pursuing a parking benefit district. They don't actually have one yet. And one of the things that their transportation person said, the Mike Burns counterpart, is what I just said. In their situation, the political environment was such that they were going to receive a lot of revenue. They're adjusting their parking pricing right now, and they're expected to receive a significant amount of additional revenue. And the political thinking was, we don't want that additional revenue going into the general fund to be spent on anything. We want it to go to dedicated things that we wouldn't probably be doing otherwise, parking related and transportation related. So that was their.
Okay. What does our Mike Burns say about this?
He is supporting this, and he's the one who brought it forward.
Okay.
So a separate fund. not
Yes,
just
a
the
separate,
parking
a
benefit.
separate fund. Now, what I've just mentioned is we need to be, and Brian and I as also have talked about this, we need to just be really clear on what revenues would be going into this thing. Because if it's the incremental revenue that would come above and beyond what we're making now, that's one thing. I don't want to cut into what we're
Right.
already generating from parking tickets. I don't want that stuff.
And we're not far enough down the planning process to understand how much money we might be talking about.
Correct. We're not.
Okay.
We're not. So this was just a first step to authorize the thing to be set up if and when we're ready to set it up. We may find during the research and review of setting it up and setting up the parking system that this isn't needed.
Right. These things tend to have an inertia about them. You know, if we create
Yes,
the fund,
they do.
then the next time we talk about it, it's going to be, well, why did we set up the fund if we weren't going to put money into it?
I
So,
agree.
I just tend to think, I come from a world where the fewer restrictions, the better, you know, and look, I get, you know, a marijuana tax going towards substance abuse, and, you know, you can sort of, okay, it makes a lot of sense, but if every revenue stream we create, we put restrictions around how we spend it, I think we are going to drive ourselves crazy. Or we're not going to drive us crazy, we're going to drive someone crazy down the line.
I shudder to think
with
what
that.
another enterprise fund just for parking looks like, and, you know, what that adds.
Communities use enterprise funds for parking.
Sorry,
Okay.
Brian.
Communities use enterprise funds for parking. That's how.
Okay,
some
well, that-
manage them because it's, you know, it's a user fee, which is the whole, an enterprise fund is a business type activity. So that's the whole premise of that, of having an enterprise fund manage a user.
So you think that's a benefit and not an undue
I
burden
do,
on
I
your
think,
staff?
Because it doesn't, you wouldn't, an enterprise fund wouldn't have those, it could be spent on things related to parking, but it wouldn't be, I don't think the general fund would be the appropriate vehicle to manage that, as the town manager has said. And I think that this is the first step because, you know, we're obviously having a study on the intermodal transportation center and everything, and as we move through all of that, we do need to have some of this stuff approved to move into in the event that, that gains inertia. We don't want to be stuck doing something and then trying to figure out how to undo it afterwards in that respect. There still needs to be some discussion, obviously, as the town manager said, between people on how this is going to look, what's going to be part of it, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think, from my opinion, that voting a recommendation to adopt this forces us into anything. It's the first step in the long analysis of what is the right model for parking and everything else to go to, in my opinion.
But doesn't that, Brian, any semblance of a parking garage or harbor place or whatnot, if there's going to be infrastructure that potentially we, the town, are going to bear some capital cost in constructing, and I kind of then agree, if that's the case, if we're thinking about that as the long-term, bucket of an expense and revenue, that I would want to keep it more in the general fund. Why would we?
But it's just, we have multiple enterprise funds that are user-based fees that have debt associated with them.
Yeah, just like setting a different department up.
Because with a part of this, I guess for discussion's sake, with a parking garage, you have user fees that are designed and set to capture revenue to pay the cost of operating that, including any debt service associated with it.
So if it becomes non-profitable, what happens?
Well, it's like any...
Or cover your expense.
Any debt that's issued for any enterprise fund, if it becomes non-profitable, it's the town's full faith and credit, we would have to backstop it regardless of what enterprise fund it is. Now, we're in that same question could be extended to anything that's going to any enterprise fund we have.
Understood.
Now that has debt
Yeah.
associated with it.
Okay.
Right?
So are
It
we?
wouldn't be unique.
So is that what is physically, or is that what's leading the charge? Potentially a parking garage, because that's something we've never been in the business.
I think that may be part of what's leading the charge, but I think more what's leading the charge is the paid parking.
I think we'll get a few more town meeting cycles before we have to worry about the
Right.
garage. A follow-up question on that, though. The decision to have paid parking, and because I wonder if on the town meeting floor, if this has the thing that it becomes the forum for debating that rather than debating this. And so how will that, is that a BOS, is that a BOS decision? They can just unilaterally make it and put it in place?
Yeah.
Thanks.
We could probably save money by going back to the minutes to the Board of Selectmen's meetings from 8 years ago, because I think we talked about paid parking for at least 2 years before we abandoned it. So we must have data or expert advice from.
We have a lot of it.
There you go.
We're going to be using it.
Instead of paying more for more advice, it's almost like, anyhow, I was tortured by it.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to adopt.
Just had another question, but
Okay.
Sorry.
Let's get a
No,
second,
I'll
and then we
withdraw
can
my
discuss it.
Second.
Okay, now discussion.
okay. What will this, Brian, allow you to do in the next 12 months that you can't do without it?
Understanding that this didn't come from you in the first place. So
Well,
you don't
I
have to
get-
have a good answer.
No, and I guess I was taking it that there were certain financial, specific to decisions you would do, or maybe there aren't.
Well, I would surmise that this would be the first step if we move to paid parking sooner rather than later, and I have no knowledge of what that plan is.
Fair enough.
It would allow that revenue to be directed here. So that's the flexibility that we would have. Otherwise, it would go into the general fund, and, let's be honest, the concern that I echo the town manager's concern about parking ticket revenue, okay, because it's already built into the general fund. If you start building things into the general fund and they become part of it when you remove them, it becomes somewhat problematic to then backfill revenue because the general fund revenue can't be earmarked for specific items. So I echo the town manager's concern, i.e. parking ticket revenue. So for me, if there was a inertia to go to paid parking, it would immediately allow us to put this in there to fund parking initiatives in the defined area. So It's flexibility. I don't know how soon or whether it would ever happen, so that's what it would do for me, from an accounting standpoint.
And to create an enterprise fund would take a town meeting
It would
vote.
take a town meeting vote
Right.
to adopt that legislation subsequent to any other.
Okay, let me just play this scenario out because it is relevant to my vote here. If you didn't do this now, and the selectmen wanted to go to paid parking within this fiscal year, that money would flow to the general fund. But you could come back and create this or an enterprise fund at a later date and then divert that revenue at that time.
We would be able to create an
Okay.
enterprise fund then.
And then
But-
future revenues going forward at that
Future.
point would flow to the enterprise fund.
But from an accounting perspective, it's always easier to start out clean.
Yeah, I
than
mean,
to
from an
Yeah.
accounting
backwards
perspective, I
and
would
forwards, obviously.
concur with Denise. It would be much easier to start correctly than try to then fix it subsequently if things went in a direction of needing this sooner rather than later.
Chris, is your concern that Stephen's inertia will allow this to happen, whether it's a good idea or not?
Let's be clear that it's not my inertia.
I'm sorry,
a lot of it.
Stephen's paraphrase. I mean,
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
paraphrase. It's a
Okay.
good one.
Well, I guess I'm just
I mean,
I'm
you
just
know-
not clear enough yet from where I said that we need this, and so then I say, well, okay, but maybe it is a good idea, but do we need to do it now?
Yeah, well, no,
Right?
it's a
If we-
chicken
if we
before
don't-
the egg.
Right.
A little bit, so.
So that's all. I'm just thinking, we could get further down the planning process as it related to parking, and then put this in place if it is the right mechanism relative to an enterprise fund or the general fund at a later date. That's all.
But the other thing to remember too, as we say this, is that the revenue that goes in is still subject to appropriation, so, as it says in the motion, so, I think it would give us the flexibility to start correctly if we got to that point, if anyone's inertia moved in that direction quicker than we thought.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, it just, from my perspective, on the books, it's cleaner to be able to do it right from the beginning than have to try to untangle it to do it right after the fact.
Got it.
So that's why I would ask you to support it.
Okay. And does anybody know, it says that the money in this fund may be used, and leave out some words, for the purposes and uses listed in Section 22A of Chapter 40. Is that pretty, what is that? That's just parking stuff?
I think so. We can get it sent around.
Who drafted the motion? I mean, somebody looked into it and thought it was okay to include it.
I only copied the motion out of the article.
Okay.
I didn't actually look up 22A, although I did think to myself, I should really look up 22A.
Well, actually, on that score, I'm not sure it reads quite right, so I don't know whether whoever was the original author, whether it was you or something, shouldn't it be something to the effect of move that pursuant to general laws, the Board of Selectmen is authorized to designate? I mean, just,
Move the general laws, Chapter 46. Yeah.
I'm
No, I
just
see what
looking
you're
up to
saying.
the article above and then the motion. So to see if the town will vote pursuant to general law, blah, 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 to authorize the Board of Selectmen. So I think that the motion ought to read, move that pursuant to, which is missing, general law, Chapter 40, Section 22A and a half, the Board of Selectmen is authorized to designate. No?
Hmm. Yeah,
I mean,
makes sense.
Yeah, there's definitely some words missing.
Only a few.
So you're saying move that pursuant to?
It's more like, I feel like I'm wordsmithing it, Libby, and maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe this is sort of appropriate language but it just, generally the motion sort of mirrors what the article is asking,
Yeah.
and I just think there's a verb or.
Right.
I'm not even
I
sure
think it
what-
just needs pursuant to. I think you just started the cut and paste, 2
Yeah.
words too late.
So move that pursuant
Pursuant
to
to
general
general
laws,
law,
chapter,
blah,
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 blah.
blah. The
And
Board
then
of
I-
Selectmen is hereby authorized
Yes,
to
Yeah.
designate?
right, and then leave the rest as it is.
Okay.
I mean,
Um,
my concern
Thank you.
here, and maybe I'm being really impractical, but I just don't, my concern is we get into a case where we're painting the lines twice a year because we have money in the fund to do that.
Right.
We have other town needs that we don't have these funds available to do. And I'm sensitive to it's nice to start with clean accounting. I also know that accounting can be gone back to and fixed if necessary. So that's where I'm a little bit struggling with it a little bit.
This, if you look at the allowable stuff, it all talks to installation, acquisition, maintenance, and operations of parking meters. So I don't think we would be able to paint lines out of this account, quite frankly.
Well, that now you're worrying me more, because now you're saying the definition is narrower. I was hoping you were going to say it includes all roadways,
Sidewalks.
curbs, bike paths. So if you can't actually paint parking lines,
What's the May appropriation?
then I'm getting concerned. Can you pay debt on parking garages out of it?
Paragraphs long, so-
Well, if it's that long, it's probably fine then.
22A is a very strange section.
You can improvements in improvements to public realms and transportation improvements.
Okay, but,
Yeah.
well, 22A and a half is what is off, is
But only
what we would be
within that
setting this
district,
fund up
right?
under,
Is
but
that-
22A is how we
Are
can
we going
spend
to,
it.
Libby, do I
I
have
don't
this
know
right?
if
Is
that's
it, can
intentional.
it would be a geographic district?
It would be a
Where the-
geographic
Where the
district.
paid parking is, and you
Yep.
can do roads
Yep.
and things within that district.
Yes.
I mean, it's probably fine, I guess, if we could repave Main Street. Free.
You're going to pave Main Street?
Re-rock it.
That's what I thought that's what he said.
I got the rocks.
Are you looking at 22A?
I am. It has to do with bicycle locking devices, motorcycle parking, restricted parking areas for veterans and handicapped persons, exemption from fees for disabled veterans, parking meters and fees, and it's got to be 800 words.
I mean, realistically, to your point, Chris, it's unlikely this will come up before the next town meeting.
Yeah.
So maybe rather than going around on it today for a length of time, assuming that we'll probably end up also with a special town meeting in the fall, even though we never do, but because we always do. So even if in 6 months you needed this fund, you could get it in then. If there's uncomfort on this committee to get it.
When would the
sorted
fund
out.
be able to be created? I mean, is this like something that would take until June anyway, or it doesn't rely on the start of a new fiscal year? No.
I mean, money would start flowing into it once we had enacted
A system where
the system.
Right.
money to go.
And how, I mean,
We're quite a
That's
ways
a
off.
feeling.
I was going to say, government moves slowly, it's the end of February, is it even possible that something's going on this summer?
No.
So then, in that case, we have at least till special town meeting to set this up.
I think it was just viewed as a loose end that was
Right.
easy
I mean,
to
that said, I'm
tie up.
I'm comfortable with it. I would vote for it. But
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
not
want to,
voting.
I mean, if it's just me, that's
unless
just,
it's
I
a
would
tie.
say sense of the board kind of thing. If the board generally, other than me, is okay, then I would say I don't want to hold it up because I'm the one that's just,
I mean, I made the motion just because it seems like, sort of the general direction of the Board of Selectmen and town administration is, we think we're going in this direction, this would be enabling ruling that would help us go forward with this strategy. I'm comfortable with that. It seems like there's going to be, from the sort of the other side to Chris, if we get farther enough down the road that this is going the wrong direction, there's chances to stop or back up, so.
Well, I think that if the fund's set up, its purpose is going to have to be amended anyway, because, the language in 22A doesn't allow for what I think this money is probably being set aside to do. So,
well, if that's true, then I don't think we should vote it.
So you're saying that 22A and a half?
Well,
Is the wrong-
22A and a half just relates to setting up a parking district, or a parking benefit district. And 22A has to do with a lot, but nowhere in here does it say structure or garage or, any. It's not very broad. I would have preferred that it be 3 sentences and say anything related to parking, but it doesn't say that. So what I'm saying is I think that this will come back before this committee, and it'll be debated again, what are the purposes for which this fund can be used. But again, I just discovered this article. and I
So
haven't
again,
read it.
I'm still comfortable with sort of going forward as voting yes on this and going forward and giving the town flexibility to use this.
Sure.
But if the sense of the committee is, maybe we should say, take no action and sort of let it slide forward. I'm not.
I would like, if this gives Mike and it gives Board of Selectmen the the latitude to do some planning and move the issue forward, for that reason, I'd support it. But, I do think we'll continue to discuss it, but I'd like to give them this if they need it. So we have a positive motion and we have a second. Are we ready for a vote?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, 67 we took care of. I'll just mention for the record, I did receive an email this morning from the sponsor of the article. No, sorry, that's not Select Board. That was the Select Committee or Special Committee, so I'll save that comment for another time.
67 is the citizen petition on changing the name of the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board.
Right, and we took no action on that.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yep. 68, this is where we were before that parking discussion, and there's no motion here. We're headed in the direction of taking no action, right?
Are we? 68, the water home rule?
Alan Reinhardt talked about that, right, as far as...
Right, I wasn't at the meeting last week, and Libby, you weren't at that meeting also, but I
Yeah.
emailed you to clarify Alan's questions, and he had heard from you that there were some problems discovered at the State House with the
So,
article.
We got an email from our legislators, Sierra and Fernandez's offices, a month ago, Brian?
Yeah, about a month ago.
Asking some questions that had come up from DOR about this, and I thought that we had answered them.
To my knowledge, Michelle has answered.
But then there's still seemed to be something coming out of the water commissioners that they didn't like this or didn't want to pursue it anymore, and that has not ever come to me directly.
Okay.
I think his response wasn't that he didn't want to pursue it, he just wanted to take, I don't know if it's a home rule petition, right? So they just wanted to wait to extend
He
it.
wanted 2 years. I mean, I wasn't here at the meeting, so I couldn't ask the question, but he mentioned 2 years being the time that was needed to study the issue.
They think that there's no need to.
It came up, like you said, at the State House, and there was a problem that could arise, so...
That was what, I'm trying to remember, that was what I thought too, was that it wasn't necessary for town meeting to reauthorize the home rule petition, that it's
It's
carries forward in the
thought it was good
legislature.
for 2 years. I think, is that what if I remember correctly?
That's not what
I don't believe
Representative
that that's correct.
Fernandez has told me.
Could we have him come back, Alan, and maybe he has new information?
So
Clarify.
I wrote these notes. Reinhardt reported that the state legislators have asked questions about various technical issues about rates and other things, and that from Dylan Fernandez, the suggestion is for the town to take no action on the article, not send the home rule petition again, and delay resending it until the issues have been resolved.
All right, so on town admin and finance side, we thought the issues had been resolved.
Okay.
So, Brian, why don't you and I get in contact with the water company and ask them what is going on with this?
It was kind of like the marijuana laws that hadn't been done yet, so we were going to take a breather.
Well, water has been legal for a long time. We should have these things down pat.
Well, they must have voiced concerns for a reason. That's all I know. You don't know what's in the water.
That's true. Okay, so we'll leave 68 for now. How many more do we have before we get back into real estate? A few.
I think we just have these home rule petitions.
Okay.
So 69 is rescinding an act that we
Right.
enacted.
The Mosquito Control Project Act didn't work out the way we wanted it to, and we
No.
want to get out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. May I have a motion on 69?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Article 70, this is the proposed revenue source for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to address the town's dire housing needs. This is this will reaffirm the town's commitment to the article and send it back to the State House.
Yep.
I think for safety's sake, especially given how many people are here, I should recuse myself from this discussion.
Okay. We are well attended today, so good. Is there any discussion before I ask for a motion?
Well, I don't think it'll end up with a negative vote from this committee, but I voted no on this last year. I'll vote no on it again this year. I think this topic is a very complex topic that has, I know a lot of people have worked a ton on this and have been spending a lot of time on it. I actually think that we may end up with this one like the previous one, going back and asking to rescind it. I think history will not treat us kindly should this ultimately pass the legislature.
The Massachusetts legislature?
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think that, setting up the Affordable Housing Trust as another one of these agencies that is no longer accountable to town meeting, we'll never see them in here again. I can't blame them, frankly, but treating the affordable housing notion this broadly, much of which comes under just the category of subsidizing growth, will ultimately be looked at as a big mistake.
When this was first discussed, which goes back 2 or maybe 3 years now, we did put in a sunset date, so this would have to be reaffirmed by a future town meeting. And I don't remember what the terms were, but I remember being happy with them. So maybe that allays some of your fears. It looks like it does not.
Said my
It
piece.
does not. Okay. Okay.
I will say, one other thing is I also think the notion of fairness that, are we going to discuss the comment on to the citizen article on the, that we talked about in the last session, the citizen article regarding the... Yes.
Dr. Dickers?
Will we do that
Joe
today?
did a...
We
draft,
are.
right?
I don't think we'll have time to do it tonight, but we
Okay.
will do that.
So I just think, the same notion of fairness that comes up in that discussion, it, to me, seems much more egregious in this discussion where there's a 100% exemption below the cap, as opposed to just a partial exemption. So I do think, as we consider these issues of fairness, to me, it's more glaring in this one than that one.
Okay. Libby, when we discussed Article 27 on Tuesday, I brought up the question of where exactly in the organization of the town does the Affordable Housing Trust Fund lie. Did you have a chance to look into what their enabling legislation looks like?
No, but they are their own entity. They're not under town admin. They're not under planning, and but I didn't look much further than that. So I'll get. You
Okay. Just curious when they. Never mind. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it.
It's in the housing production plan, if you want me to read.
I
do. Want to take the time now?
Yeah, I would like to know.
Yeah.
Are there other towns in Massachusetts also doing this?
I think this would be first of its kind, which is why it's met with such resistance, because, there's the fear, which is the same fear that was heralded around Massachusetts when the land bank went in. It was, this will be a domino effect and everybody's going to set these things up.
Now, on the Vineyard, their land bank, and in other land banks around the state, they actually peel off a portion of their tax and reallocate it to affordable housing.
Okay.
So
I wasn't aware of that.
I understand.
So we could we don't have to add another tax. I mean, honestly, I kind of share similar sentiments. There's also other ways to raise funds without doing a home rule petition. One of which would be extremely simple, would just be a vacation rental permit, which is the same as, in my mind, if we charge people the ability to fish out of our waters and to drive on our beaches, why not charge that same ability to do a transient vacation rental? And these exist in other places. So I think there's other ways to raise funds that aren't so broad and all-encompassing. And honestly, I mean, look, I know that every time the promoters of this legislation, they say, oh, it's going to pass. Why not then? It's not like Massachusetts is some stratified legislature. I mean, it just seems that we've reached this 2-year process. We've got to do it again. There's still a crazy problem out there. Let's look for another silver bullet, because there's probably 5 or 6 of them needed at this point, and not just one, that we're in control of, too. Not relying on everyone else.
It's a pretty lengthy thing on here, but if you're interested, page 39 of the 40B Housing Production Plan document goes into quite a bit of detail, including outlining 16 specific powers granted to the trust that require no further action or authorization from other municipal bodies, including town meeting and board of selectmen, which include things like borrowing money and mortgaging and pledging trust assets, executing deeds, selling and leasing real estate. So pretty much anything that they might create a plan for.
Right.
You know, it's another one of these kind of independent.
So it's its own thing, but how does for instance, how does the IRS look at this entity? Is it a nonprofit? Is it a governmental agency? What is it?
It's a governmental agency.
It is. So it somehow comes under the umbrella of the town of Nantucket. It just doesn't have direct responsibilities to answer to Libby, your office, or to anybody else.
Yeah, I would say yes.
Okay.
Or the legislative.
So it's allowed for somewhere in the town charter.
It's not in the charter,
I
but
mean-
it's a special act, I think, that is in the town code.
Okay. So it was created by an act of town meeting, and its membership could only be adjusted probably the same way.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the committee? Do we want to hold this or take action? May I have a motion?
Motion not to adopt.
Motion not to adopt. I did not think that was the way this was going to go. Okay. Do I have a second? That motion dies for lack of a second. May I have another motion?
Gave it to you.
I was about to speak.
Oh,
Make the motion again.
Second?
A second.
okay.
What was that?
Motion not to adopt.
Yeah, Chris made the motion and Cliff seconded. So now may I have any comments or discussion on this motion not to adopt Article 70?
I guess I'll just say what I just said. I think there's other ways to raise money for affordable housing. We need to get a little more creative than just asking for a blanket tax. And also, I mean, the land bank is close to achieving its mission, where other towns have used those funds to solve a
Well, that's fine, but I think that
that's my comment. I guess.
there's a bigger political hurdle to climb or to overcome to adjust the enabling legislation of the land bank, and
It would be very difficult because of the fact of the debt.
because of all the debt, right?
And those receipts are pledged to cover that debt, and the town has backed that.
Well, that brings up an interesting question then.
So
How
trying to change that would be somewhat of a hurdle. We've already talked to bond counsel and
Right.
and our financial advisors about that.
So how debt worthy is this entity likely to be if there's this sunset provision that says it may disappear in 10 years, I think is what it says. I mean, is it going to be able to borrow?
You would, I guess I would say this, I would assume that what their borrowing would be to issue mortgages if they didn't have all the funding initially to issue all of the mortgages, and you would have an income stream from the mortgages that would be able to obviously pay back the borrowing. So I think to an extent, I have to be honest with how creditworthy they would be to borrow or what that would be. We have to do more research because of the sunset clause.
But that's already been answered, because this is the third year we're doing this. This was reviewed thoroughly by town council and bond council already, so we could get that question re-answered. But in my mind, I'm recalling that came up, the borrowing and the sunset, and there was an answer to it. I don't remember what it is right off the top of my head right this moment, but I could get it.
Where is the sunset?
I'm just scrolling through and can't find it.
I remember that being an important part of the discussion a few years ago, but I don't see it.
I don't see it here.
This has to be the same language as was previously
Yeah.
adopted, right?
Sa- Yep, same as last year.
Section 8 says it's severable, but doesn't have a time limit. Something I need to find.
That's just the restriction.
And the Board of Selectmen have already approved this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they.
I can just word search it if I pull up the PDF. I don't see it, and I'd like to support this, and I'd like to say something eloquent that will make you all support it, but I'd also like to know that this sunset provision, which I think was an important addition, is in there. So, regretfully, I am going to suggest that we push this off for another meeting.
We have a motion on the table, don't we?
Yeah, so that's my suggestion, and I'm hopeful that you guys will do it. I'll ask for a vote, but that's what I'm hopeful you all will do.
And so we would vote to support. We'd vote down the motion.
You'd vote
Correct.
down the motion not to adopt,
And we'd have
and then
to-
we'd hold
Yep.
for another meeting, and have another discussion, and then a vote at a later date. At not a much later date, at our very next meeting.
No, that's smart.
So, that's my comment, and now I'm going to ask for a vote, which this vote will be on Cliff's motion not to adopt. All in favor of Cliff's motion not to adopt?
Aye.
All right.
Sounds
No.
like we got
No.
3. And then we have 2 noes.
I can't, I recuse myself.
Joe
vote.
recused. Okay. Am I allowed to vote? I'm allowed to vote.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I vote no also. And now we're deadlocked. So
And I don't know, I'm not allowed to I would say I would have supported your intent to delay, except I'm not here at the next meeting.
I understand.
That's why I
And
had to vote. I had not to support
This
your
is not
desire.
gamesmanship on my part.
No,
I promise that.
I didn't take it that way, but I didn't think
Yeah.
it was right for me to have supported the motion and not vote that way, given that I wouldn't be here.
Understood completely. So now that we're deadlocked on that motion, do I need to take another vote, or it just, or it dies?
I guess it
Dies.
dies.
Okay,
So you don't have a motion right now.
great. I will ask for no more discussion and for no more votes.
Second.
Article 71. What is Article 71? Amending the affordable housing covenants.
Leslie, do you remember what this
I do.
was? It's something we approved last year, based on a bylaw we had approved.
Probably
rescinds the prior year.
sunset law.
Right. There shall be no sunsets in any provision.
Oh, this is that qualified family member thing.
There were some pieces to this, so I just don't want to start talking about the wrong piece of it. All right, so you may remember several town meetings ago, there was a citizen petition allowing qualified family members to be eligible for the housing needs covenant, even if they didn't meet the income requirements. So that passed through the zoning bylaw, but it needed a home rule petition to change the act that created the covenant program in the first place. So this home rule petition is necessary to implement that zoning amendment.
Okay. May I have a motion on Article 71?
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
'72 through '75 are all real estate-related home rule petitions.
Okay.
And Andrew may be able to go over those, but they are pretty much companions to a number of the real estate articles. These home rule petitions will have to be enacted in order to do the real estate.
Okay.
those.
79, 80, are we, it's all real estate till the end? No.
Yes, and except for 87 and 88.
Okay.
Sorry,
88 and 89?
Yeah.
Okay. What is 88? Where's that sewer easement?
Release of sewer easement.
I'm not familiar with Land Court Plan 26439U.
What?
88 is a citizen petition, and it has something to do with the development that's going to be occurring in the adjacent property, and I think they want to understand if they can potentially relocate the sewer easement, because some of the sewer lines, I guess, might be being realigned somehow. But, I don't know. Oh, okay.
Well, ultimately, I think we should defer to David Gray, but the sewer easement goes from their property back to a subdivision that was Pilot Oil Drive that was subsequently purchased by the land bank
Mhm.
and will never be developed. So the question is, does the sewer easement need to remain in place for some other purpose, or can it go away? So I think the sewer superintendent should answer that question before taking action.
They could have given us a map.
Yeah, I'm looking at the map now. It just gives us the same information that Leslie gave us, which is that it's Pilot Whale Drive, which is behind Pine Grove. Okay, so we'll leave that. And then we're just on to 89, the stabilization fund, and we are not making any appropriation to the fund this year.
Correct.
Okay. May I have a motion on Article 89?
Move to take no action?
Second?
Discussion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then 90. Do we typically take no action on this? Okay. May I have a motion on Article 90?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we'll go from the top and dig into some zoning. Leslie, thank you for waiting and for adjusting your schedule today.
You're welcome, and prepared to talk about real estate too. And
Great.
associated home rule petitions, so.
Cool, I think we have the room till 6:30, so if you'll stick with us that long.
Maybe we can make it 5:30.
If we can do it that fast, I don't think you'll have any.
Just move time.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't sit there.
You just need to Lysol the chair. Harsh, I know.
Only kidding, Libby, only kidding.
Just want to be able to hold naps and make it. That's okay.
You should all be wearing masks.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, I think that we're going to Article 36, is that right?
Yes.
Yep.
Do you want to do these one by one, or do you want me to just go until someone has a question?
Yeah, why don't you just keep going until
Okay.
somebody, so anybody, if you have a question as she goes, just speak up.
What were we saying again, 36?
36.
So Article, and the planning board has closed the public hearing on all of these, by the way. So Article 36, that's sponsored by the planning board. It's a zoning change from the residential commercial district to the residential old historic district. So these properties are going from commercial to residential. There's no future subdivision potential here. It's a 5,000 square foot zone to a 5,000 square foot zone. These are residentially used now, and the planning board gave that a positive recommendation. Article 37, RC to R5, Sparks Avenue and Williams Lane. This is also going from a commercial district, residential commercial, to a residential district, residential 5. The density would remain the same in terms of minimum lot size and ground cover. The properties at 4, 6, and 8 Williams Lane were removed from the planning board motion. There's currently a commercial use at 8 Williams. The property owner at 4 Williams has some plans for her property, so the planning board voted to take those out so they would have some time to get organized, and then we'll revisit those later.
Is that emeritus?
Yeah, emeritus is at 8.
Yeah, thank you.
Article 38, R1 to CMI or CN at Cherry and Pleasant Street, also a planning board sponsored article. The board voted to take no action. A single property owner is involved, and we were trying to work with them on a plan for that area, and that just didn't come together in time, so this may be revisited at the special town meeting. Article 39, R5 to C in airport property at 10 Sun Island Road. This property was rezoned from RC2 to R5 a few town meetings ago at the request of the Airport Commission. They had some residential plans for that property. The FAA has since suggested that the commercial neighborhood district would be more beneficial for what their plans are for employee housing, I think. The planning board gave that a positive recommendation. Article 40, Sconset Old Historic to Village Neighborhood. This includes just a few properties sort of in the center of Sconset in the village area, mostly owned by the casino. The Chanticleers included. There's a gallery. The Sconset Trust organized this and requested that the board bring this forward. It's part of the master plan for creating village commercial nodes. The planning board gave this a positive recommendation.
Leslie, what's up with the shape of this map? It looks like we're leaving out 2 properties right on New Sconset.
There is a residentially used property, or 2, let me just find the map. There are 2 residential properties that were left, or 3, excuse me, left out of the rezoning. I believe the property owners wanted to remain in a residential district. This was part of the proposal that came from the trust, and it is consistent in village areas to have a mix of residential and commercial.
Okay, but so village neighborhood doesn't allow for them to maintain. I mean, certainly any use can be maintained if you rezone. What are they? I mean, it just seems we're creating an island, and in the future it's going to look like we've spot zoned these people because everything around it's going to be different, even on the other side of the street.
Well, it does diagonally connect over to the other side of Park Lane.
Right.
And, as I mentioned, this layout came from the Sconset
Came from
Trust, and
them.
that's what they worked out with the owners.
Okay.
So the next Article 41, CN to C Tech. This was also a a planning board article. This would change the commercial district from commercial neighborhood to commercial trade, entrepreneurship, and craft. The C-Tech district is more appropriate for the current and historic use of the site, which is storage and warehousing. At the time that property was placed in commercial neighborhood, it was thought to probably be part of the Richmond development in the future, and that hasn't happened. It's the Coca-Cola warehouse. So the planning board gave that a positive recommendation. Article 42, zoning map change from R20 to R1 at Wyers Lane. There was an article to rezone other surrounding properties a few years ago, also from R20 to R1. That particular pocket of properties between Westchester, New Lane, and Wyers was non-conforming to the R20 district. And this piece that's now included is shown on the assessor map as a single lot, but there are older pre-zoning land court plans that show 2 lots, so they would be able to reclaim their other lot. So 1 additional lot could be created for zoning purposes, and the planning board gave that a positive recommendation. Article 43, I think this was a planning board sponsored article. 1 Airport Road. This area is identified in the master plan as a potential future commercial area. This would extend the commercial neighborhood zoning district from across the street on the opposite side of Old South Road. The property owner is working with the town on some right-of-way that's needed for future improvements at that intersection that would be funded by Richmond. And they are also planning to come forward prior to town meeting with a restriction on future driveway access points.
This came forward as a citizens article last year, right? Or it's a special?
It did, and the board did not give it a positive recommendation because they wanted some time to talk with the property owner about the right-of-way that's needed and some driveway restrictions and some possible other restrictions. So those discussions have, to my knowledge, been favorable, and we're expecting something from them before town meeting.
Okay.
So the board gave that a positive recommendation.
And before I forget, because I will, you mentioned that this is mentioned in the master plan, which is kind of nearing its the end of its life.
It did.
Yeah.
Well, it was meant to be a 10-year document. We're approaching the end of the 10 years, and we have engaged a consultant to help us start going through and seeing, what needs to be updated.
Great. Thanks.
Okay. Article 44. So this is a zoning map change for parcels in the country overlay district. All of the parcels included in this article are currently used for, or would be more appropriately used for, open space due to their location in environmentally sensitive areas or perhaps on a coastal bank. We have been bringing forward articles like this for probably the past 10 years, and this is consistent with sort of the open space zoning concept. The planning board gave this a positive recommendation. All right, Article 45. These are technical changes to the zoning bylaw, also proposed by the planning board. The first piece of this, to amend Section 2A, that just cleans up a change that was made at the special town meeting that didn't carry forward to all applicable sections. And item 2 in this article removes a discrepancy in the zoning bylaw between two sections that have two different regulations. So the planning board gave this a positive recommendation. Article 46, more technical changes. There is really nothing substantive in this article. It cleans up the sections that address enforcement. That's in item 1. That just removes some duplicative language. In item 2, it looks like the option for a temporary permit is being removed from the bylaw, but it's actually just being moved to a more appropriate section. In Article 3, occupancy permits, there's currently a requirement that the Historic District Commission shall issue a certification within 5 working days. I mean, the zoning officer can't really issue a violation against the Historic District Commission, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's being removed. Item number 4 just changes a shall to a may. The Board of Appeals may adopt rules. It removes some language that's really in Robert's Rules of Order. And it adds back in that temporary permit language that was deleted from a different section. So the planning board gave that a positive recommendation.
How in this day and age we get language so wrong? Are these old, or just because of different changes we have to change the language?
Some of the language has been in the bylaw for a long time and is just carried forward despite other changes that have been made. With citizen articles, we used to have a lot more of those that changed language in the bylaw. So, maybe not the most, maybe the most finesse wasn't used at times. Anyway, so these are just cleanup articles, I would say, the 2 that I just discussed. And the planning board gave those a positive recommendation. Article 47, Town and Country Overlay District changes, Warrow Lane and Evergreen Way. There were zoning changes that were citizen petitions that were adopted at the special town meeting. And the citizen petitions changed the underlying zoning district, but they did not change the corresponding overlay district. And that's what's happening here. We have the zoning bylaw organized in town districts and country districts. So if you switch from a town district, you should also move to the town overlay. If you go into a country district, you should go into the country overlay. The planning board gave this a positive recommendation. Article 48, this is a new addition to the zoning bylaw brought forward by the planning board, an additional ground cover allowance by special permit in the village residential district. The village residential district has a maximum ground cover of 10%. This would allow a special permit allowance to go up to 12.5% if the additional ground cover is specifically limited to a single-story structure or an addition that's a single story. And this is sort of coming out of a couple of different master plans, the area plans. The Surfside area plan, the Mattica area plan, and the Brant Point area plan all contain language that say lower structures to preserve views and a more country cottage feel should be encouraged. So the planning board gave this a positive recommendation. Article 49, this is a citizen petition to change the requirements for flex development and open space residential development. Both of those developments require a preservation of open space, and the open space has to be held by an entity that can hold a conservation restriction. And some of these projects have later, after they've been developed, had trouble finding someone to hold the conservation restriction. So this language changes the bylaw to say that you have to have a letter of intent from an agency before you can get your final plan approval. And the planning board gave that a positive recommendation. The other piece of this article is that pools, clubhouses, that kind of thing have to be excluded from the total open space requirement, that they can't be considered as an accessory to the open space. The board did make some minor language changes, but the overall concept was adopted. So that has a positive recommendation. Article 50, RC2 to CMI on Old South Road. There was actually RC2 to CMI, CN, or CTEC, or some combination thereof. The planning board moved to take no action on this article. And that's something that we'll probably revisit, maybe at the special or future annual.
Yeah, I was surprised by this one, because it seems like the planning board hasn't seen an RC2 that it doesn't hate, right? So was there just not enough time to get arms around it to figure out which of the three, or?
No, actually, the planning board, I think, would have been supportive of moving this article forward, but the proponent of the article wanted one of the three options, and they were not going to get it. And when the planning board started to move forward with the rest of it, the proponent basically said, you know, we brought this idea forward, and it's not going to work for us, and it's going to potentially penalize our neighbors, and we don't think that's the right approach. And the planning board agreed. I didn't point this out at the beginning, but the planning board sends courtesy mailings to all of the property owners affected by planning board sponsored articles, but we do not do that for citizen petition articles, and we don't require, because we can't, the citizens to do that. So I think the board felt these people should have been notified beyond just, you know, the printing of the warrant, that type of notification.
Okay, thank you.
So this is an area where we do want to phase out RC2, but given the context of how this article came up, they felt it wasn't the right time. Article 51, LUG2 to LUG1, so that's a 2-acre district to a 1-acre district, basically. Massaquoi Avenue. This article has been brought forward by various citizens to town meeting over the years, and it has not passed. It's consistent with the master plan. The property is surrounded by other 1-acre zoned properties. Some of those properties are more consistent with half-acre zoning, so the planning board gave it a positive recommendation. Article 52, LUG2 to LUG1. This is a citizen petition at 56 Old South Road. Again, basically going from 2 acres to 1 acre. The planning board gave this a positive recommendation. The property is surrounded by 3 sides on 1 acre. So the planning board felt that this was a reasonable request. Article 53, zoning map and town and country overlay district change. This also has a sewer amendment attached to it, and it received a negative recommendation from the planning board. So that's the end of zoning.
Great. Thank you. Questions about anything we just heard?
So on 53, you said it was a negative from the planning board?
53, that's Appleton Road?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so it was marked in our copy yesterday as take no action?
Oh, excuse me. Yes, take no action.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Right, it's that one that still bugs me because there are two motions and they're different. And I'm still bewildered by that. If it were negative, it would have brought them into the same, but
If I said the planning board gave a negative recommendation on any of these, what I meant was the motion was to take no action.
oh, okay, thank you, that's helpful.
And our motions are basically to support the planning board, right? We can
Correct.
either support the planning board, take no action, or oppose the planning board?
Yeah, those are the options. And also we have the option to add a comment on any. Okay. Yep.
I'm sorry, no, go ahead.
But I was just going to suggest that we go on to the real estate articles.
I was
To
gonna
conveyance
say, we wanted
articles. Sure, I'd be
to a
happy,
motion and just...
happy to do that now.
Because I don't think, it doesn't sound like anybody disagrees with the planning board recommendation, so we just,
Yeah.
Vote them as a
okay,
block.
why don't
So,
we just vote them as a block? So for Articles 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, and 53, I move to support the planning board motions.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Getting a lot done today. This is great. So then we'll jump to 76, is that right?
Or do you want to start with 72?
Is that the first real estate one?
Oh, yes, thank you. I missed that one. 72 has to do with real estate conveyances to the Land Bank, Conservation Foundation, and/or Sconset Trust.
Stephen, just to be, on Article 53, it looks like we voted to take no action on Tuesday already.
Yep.
But I was just marking at my sheet here. I don't know if
Okay.
that really changed, I don't know if that, the vote we just took really
Well,
screws that up at all. I just wanted to mention that.
okay. I also have in here, or on this sheet, the planning board motion, so maybe we had that ahead of time?
The planning board.
Is it possible we knew that information before today?
This is the one that had, 53 is the one that had sort of the two
Yep.
Right,
components in the same article.
Tuesday, take no action.
yeah. So I'm going to say that we knew that beforehand, because
Second.
that's why that information's here, and
was
it
on
wasn't for the
Tuesday's
others.
document.
Great.
Good thing that-
Okay, well, good thing we didn't contradict ourselves, so we're all set to jump to 72. Leslie?
Okay, so 72 is a home rule petition, real estate conveyances to the Nantucket Islands Land Bank, Nantucket Conservation Foundation, and/or the Sconset Trust. And you have, I think you have several maps you can use as a reference for this. So all of these parcels are subject to Article 97 of the state constitution. They were purchased for, or they're used as open space currently, and the intent of this home rule petition is to simply allow the change of custodian from the town to one of these entities. And this is a permissive article. We think it's important to start the process, even if there's not sort of an imminent plan for some of these, because, as you all talked about earlier, home rule petitions can take a while.
This is going to sound like a stupid question, but they remain restricted to be open space?
Yes, yes, they would have to remain as open space.
So I recognize that that's currently what these other organizations do, but we
Yes.
are transferring to a private organization that could change its...
Right, so it would just be transferring the custodianship from the town to one of these other agencies, and the Board of Selectmen would include language saying that if the entity were to cease to exist, it would revert back to the town.
Or if the use changes.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to go through the maps on these, map 1, or do you
Guys
not?
feel the need to?
I don't want to
No?
do that, no.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, Article 73. That is a conveyance of land at Washington Street, also subject to Article 97. It's been a longstanding policy to convey county land to the town. The county, as you know, is an extension of the state, so it's better to have these properties under local control.
Okay.
And I'll add, there was an earlier town meeting vote on this, but unfortunately, these properties were listed by the assessor as being already owned by the town. So this is sort of a corrective article. Article 74. Ready? Okay, conveyance of a portion of 264 Pulpus Road. So this is cemetery land, and therefore it requires legislative approval.
So what are we doing in 74 and 80? The map has a section in red that's sort of on the eastern side of the Pulpus Cemetery, and then there's black and white dotted line on the north end.
We're trading.
It's a swap.
Trading.
It's an equal swap, so the land area is exactly the
We're
same.
giving them the red, and they get that.
Yep. And this was brought forward by the Cemetery Commission.
And they spoke at the public hearing about that this would give them more usable space for, I guess they're actually interring ashes out there. It's one of the places they have capacity.
Oh,
This
really?
would give them more usable
Yeah.
space as opposed to putting it in these people's baseboards, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Wasn't there an issue on value, even though the plots of land are the same square footage, there was some issue that they have to be valued the same as well?
Yes, they have to have an assessment to prove that there's a value.
I just remember that was something that
So they're
Yeah.
giving this
Pepper
piece.
mentioned.
and
Correct.
getting this piece.
The property owners are giving this. Yeah, that's correct. You know
Yes,
them
they were
too.
going to assess to make sure the two parcels were of equal value in order to do the swap.
Fine by me either way, but
Yes.
Yeah. Whoever's question, do you remember who had that question? I wasn't here at the public hearing, so.
They just came and presented
They-
and
I
kind of
think-
told us what was going on. The
No,
cemetery
I
commission.
don't mean that. I mean, who raised the question of unequal value? No one.
so it's Lee, right? Lee Saperstein?
Yes.
Yeah, he was just a
He
point
brought
of
it up.
information.
He mentioned that there was some question that they had to make the swap appropriate, legal or make it work. The two parcels had to be not just the same. The square footage was less relevant than whether they were of equal value.
Yeah.
So there's no question, he gave a presentation and just gave us all the information.
Got it.
And
Okay.
that was one of the steps.
I guess we have to assume that they're going to work that out. So.
Okay. 75.
Article 75, also home rule petition to convey these two parcels from Wannacomet Water Company. These are in the Water Protection District. That's why they are also subject to Article 97, which also requires legislative approval. So these two small pieces would allow an expansion of the existing rotary and the construction of the roundabout at Old South and Fairgrounds Road.
Excuse me.
All right. Article 76, so real estate acquisition in the MMD. So there are parcels at the end of a proprietor's way that are shown on an 1874 subdivision plan. Those are owners unknown. They're held in tax title. This would allow us to acquire those. And the other property is owned by an individual that we can identify, and this would allow, the town to acquire that parcel. These are in the Morelands Management District and would go towards future open space. Article 77. This is acquisition for land for roadway and roundabout purposes. There are various parcels included in this. We just talked about the two on Wannacomet's property. There's one currently under the authority of the Airport Commission at the corner of Milestone Road. That would allow for intersection improvements at Milestone and Nobodier Farm Road.
It's confusing because 10 Sun Island Road is a huge piece of property that goes all the way from Sun Island all the way to Milestone Road. So the issue's really
Yeah.
around Milestone Road, even though it's a long ways from Sun Island.
Right.
It's effectively a triangle at the corner of Milestone and Nobodier.
That is it. massive piece of property. 105 acres, if you were curious.
Okay. Article 78. Real estate conveyance to Land Bank, Conservation Foundation, and/or Wisconsin Trust. So some of these parcels we already talked about in the home rule petition, Article 72. There are a few new ones in here. Do you want me to go through those, through the maps? No?
No.
Okay. And, these would be conveyed to agencies who could consolidate existing open space lands and who would be better equipped to maintain them in the future.
Great.
All right. Article 79. Conveyance of 111 Washington Street and a portion of Surfside. Let's get to that map. So the parcel at 111 Washington Street does include the parking lot near the lifeguard housing. The town would retain that for parking, and the remainder of that would be conveyed to the homeowners association of an abutting neighborhood. Currently, there's a wetland there, and the homeowners association already has authorization from the Conservation Commission to perform certain maintenance activities of that wetland, and that would be sort of extended over to this parcel, and there would be a conservation restriction put in place.
Is there a benefit to this Mariner Way subdivision to having this extra land?
I don't think there is a specific benefit to them, but it's really unclear because the wetland goes across the property lines, like what they're maintaining and what's on the town land relative to the wetland. So it'd really just be easier for everybody for them to maintain it under one permit.
Okay. So when they came in to do their subdivision or to get all these houses approved, it wasn't a condition of the approval that they take care of this? Or, I mean, why is this coming up?
Well, there's two pieces of it. The planning board subdivision approval, which
Yeah.
wouldn't change, and then the Conservation Commission approval relative to the wetland. So they already have the Conservation Commission approval for their subdivision, for their part of the wetland. But it's really hard to sort of parcel out, this is my part of the wetland and this is your part of the wetland as far as maintenance. It would be, more cohesive, and I believe the group is open to maintaining all of it. So they wouldn't have any ground cover benefit or anything like that, and the Board of Selectmen could include any kinds of restrictions in the conveyance.
Okay.
All right. Article 80, real estate conveyance. This is a strip of land in Surfside. There's a discrepancy between an old 1884 subdivision plan, and a more recent plan, although not that recent, that was drawn by John Shagru. And the discrepancy is...
Sorry, Leslie, 80 is the Pulpus Road one.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. 79.
I was going to say I'm lost.
Sorry, we're still in 79. So 79 has two pieces, 111 Washington Street, which we just talked about, and then this piece of land in Surfside.
Thank you.
So the piece of land in Surfside is a 5-foot wide strip. There's a discrepancy about the ownership of this strip because of old subdivision plans and old surveys. So this would allow the property owner to the north to take ownership of this parcel. Currently, it's contested land. There's no public purpose for it. So the thought is to combine it with their land to get it on the tax rolls.
So this is a 5-foot wide strip of this parcel that's identified as map 88, parcel 67? Because it doesn't say portion of, it seems to be the whole thing.
Oh, yes, it's a 5-foot wide strip, and if you go to the map for 79 map 2, it shows it.
Okay, so does this motion need to be modified to, to say portion of? Because otherwise we're giving 10,000 square feet to somebody. You do?
Under the first bullet.
The
On the
second,
second
Yeah,
bullet.
that's 111 Washington Street, but we're talking about the Surfside parcel, which appears to be the whole thing. Yeah,
Yes, I think that needs a correction.
okay. So when we take action on that, we'll make that amendment. That would have been a nice gift for that person.
So 5 feet to, yeah, there you go.
Okay, on to 80, which is the other half of 74. That's the swap for Pulpus Cemetery.
Yep.
Okay, so 80, portion of 264 Pulpus Road, this is the same parcel, the same exchange that we just discussed in the home rule petition. This would authorize the Board of Selectmen to convey the portion to the property owner. That's it.
Okay?
Okay, 81, portions of Lincoln Avenue. So there have been numerous inquiries about this piece of land over the years. Since at least the 1940s, this land has been used, shown as part of private property and taxed as part of private residential property. The title, however, isn't clear. This would, allow the town to acquire it, deed it back to these homeowners who've already been paying taxes on it, and the remaining layout for Lincoln Circle would be consistent with the rest of that street. There's really no public purpose that we see for maintaining this or trying to maintain it as public land. And again, it's somewhat contested about whether it is or isn't.
That's what I thought. I thought it was those parcels.
couldn't figure it out from.
Because it's
So
all
the
different
town would just
address,
grant that
circle,
property to the
Ave,
homeowners as if it
East
had always
Lincoln.
been theirs, or they would sell it to them?
Didn't pay taxes
Well,
on it.
Yeah, I know, but
So
Adverse possession?
I mean, what's the practice usually?
So
That's
it
the real
depends.
estate
I mean,
market.
usually if the property owner,
You want to see
They
what?
decided.
What do you guys
through the
think?
yard sale program, if the property owner has already been paying taxes on it,
Okay,
it's just conveyed back to them.
okay, thank you.
Beach parking.
Right. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that explanation, but I think this is the exact purpose of the real estate
Space
committee, right?
clubhouse.
Like, they don't, we determined a few weeks ago that they don't make recommendations on these articles before we do, but the value of land is specifically what the real
Right.
estate committee's for. So before we convey this land, we'll determine that each one of those houses is assessed for over $10 million, and good. Okay.
So it's 81 and 82. 81 is the acquisition, 82 is the conveyance.
Okay,
Sorry, they're not all over $10 million. Somebody's going to replay that back and say that I'm making false claims. They're not. They're near, but they're not over $10 million.
Okay, 83 Nobadir Avenue, that's 83 and 84. These are citizen petitions. 83 is the acquisition, 84 is the conveyance. This is essentially a 20-foot wide strip of land currently known as Nobadir Avenue. Nobadir Avenue dead ends right after this parcel, and the town owns the parcel across the street. So maintaining 20 feet on the opposite of Nobadir provides more than enough access for this parcel and the remaining parcels that need that for access. '85 and '86 also citizen petitions, acquisition and conveyance of a portion of Sandwich Road.
Yeah.
It just came to our attention today that one of the property owners is not necessarily in agreement with this.
I think we have some public comment on this. Thank you for sticking it out all the way till now.
By the way, you guys are doing a great job.
You're buttering us up. What are you here to say?
I'm here to oppose those articles.
Okay.
I think that...
Will you mind stepping up to the microphone?
I don't think I can stand up. I got bad legs.
Okay.
You can sit in that chair, and then we'll move the microphone to you.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll need your name and address, sir, for the record, if you'll identify yourself and where you live.
Tom Ryder, 10 Chatham Road.
Thank you.
I'm here to oppose 85 and 86. I think the Nantucket yard sales that have been going on were meant for little streets in Surfside, uncut streets, and various spots on the island. This road they're trying to take, Sandwich Road, is a road, and I don't think your map shows it, but there's like 7 or 8 driveways off of this thing. This is a well-used road. And all the abutters there, this is nothing like the yard sales were intended for, I don't think. And I've spoken to Andrew and Carmack. Carmack is definitely against it. He'll be talking to you,
Yeah.
I'm sure. And also to what's his name, the lawyer over here.
Stephen Cohen? Or no?
Nope. I can't remember his name. I'm old,
Yeah.
Okay.
so I forget. But it's
Okay.
I'll think of it in a minute. But I'm here. I don't think that should be taken like that. They want to take the road, sell it to the abutters, and then give easements to the properties.
Mm-hmm.
I think is what they intend to do.
Is that what they intend to do, Leslie?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Arthur Reed is the lawyer, by the way.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's what they intend to do, but there's no reason to do it. It's like a big dirt road with
Right.
7 houses coming off of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I do see that.
I don't know if they show the roads off of that map you got, though. do
Well,
they?
not on the map that you think
Driveways?
I'm looking at, but I'm looking at the satellite map also.
Okay,
So,
yeah,
so I
yeah.
can see what's actually constructed
Yeah.
here. So Leslie, what is the purpose of 85 and 86?
These are citizen petition articles.
Okay.
And the normal sort of policy or procedure is that if, the roadway is not in fact paper, and if it's providing access to properties, and if one of the people who use the road for access is opposed, then those articles typically don't move forward. So we
Okay.
would recommend no action on this one.
Again, I wasn't here for the public hearing. Did Stephen Cohen come here and represent this?
No.
Nobody did. I don't
Okay.
remember.
Nope.
Great. Well, then it sounds like it won't get the support of this committee. Was this acted on by planning board? No, that's not customary. Okay.
There was one time when it came up before, and it was just right off.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Right.
I got some property up again that I bought, and I intended never to build on, so I would have neighbors too close to me. And I want to save it to make it.
That's very nice. Do you use Chatham for access? No, you use Sandwich.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But, that would be a long road from Chatham up to the front hill, so.
Yeah.
That's why I like to keep that open. Advised by a real estate, to keep it open.
Well, thank you
Okay,
for coming.
thank
Yeah, next time, if there is a next time, we could have made this earlier.
Yeah.
We could have.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're very polite to sit and wait. Yeah.
I was gonna say
Raise
something
your
when I
hand
first
and
come
say
in.
you want to go
And
first.
I'm sitting here and I said, I wish I could speak like her.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder.
Well, yeah, you acquitted yourself well enough here tonight, I think. Thank you. I know. All right. Last one then is 87. Real estate conveyance, industrial land. This, I remember this. Okay.
So this is also a citizen petition. These parcels are in the commercial industrial district. They're across the street from the Reese project. They're out in the industrial area off Industrial Road. And the intent of this article is to authorize the Board of Selectmen to grant long-term leases, not sales. And this article would be permissive to allow the Board of Selectmen the authority to make that decision or not.
Great. Thank you. Is there any questions from the committee? No?
Does the planning board doesn't make a motion or comment on that last one?
Right.
Okay.
That's right, Leslie. All of these acquisition and conveyance articles, we're not expecting action from the planning board?
No, the planning board doesn't act on anything other than zoning articles,
Okay.
most of the time.
Was this part of the one, the police chief say was this part of the land they wanted to keep, or not? There was some reason why they didn't want these leases? No? I don't think so. In earlier meetings? No?
There was some conversation.
We're going back and forth with, I'm not sure if this is the same piece of land, or these are the same pieces.
Yeah, I'm going to see if it is the same piece. It looks like it may be. But again, this is permissive. There's sort of 3 chunks of land here. So if Chief Pittman or if anybody had objections to one of the pieces, then Board of Selectmen might not have to put that out to bid or release those. At least that's how I see it. Okay, so we're nearing 6 o'clock. We've heard all we're going to hear on a lot of these real estate, on all of the articles that Leslie just explained to us. Do we want to take some action? We have the room for another 32 minutes.
I have to go to a meeting upstairs.
Well, except for Article 79, where it has to be changed to a portion of Surfside parcel, which it says on the...
Yeah, why don't we take that out of order? Let's do that one first.
So if we did all the rest, we could do it the same way Joe suggested for the previous ones.
Well, except 85, 86, we're going to say there is no...
Correct.
Right.
Take no action.
Okay, so then do we want to take 72 to 78 as a block?
Mm-hmm.
But we're accepting the language of the Finance Committee motion as written, not supporting the planning.
Correct.
board.
So
So
the
it's a little bit
motion,
different.
yeah, the motion would have to be to accept the motions as written. But let's make sure they all have some. It looks like 77 does not. All right, we're going to need to take this a little slower than I had hoped.
Do one at a time.
Yeah. No problem, thank you, we're still good here. Okay, 72, real estate conveyances to Land Bank, Conservation Foundation, Wisconsin Trust. May I have a motion on 72?
Motion to adopt as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Article 73, conveyance of land from county to town. May I have a motion?
Motion to adopt?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
74, real estate conveyance of portion of 264 Pulpus Road.
No, it's not written here yet. We'll need a motion. Or maybe it is. I'm looking at this.
Nope, 74 is written.
Yep.
Yep.
Sorry, my mistake.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 75, we have no motion for. 76, we do have a motion for.
Motion to adopt?
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
77, no motion, we'll hold that. 78 does have a motion.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was 78?
Yep. 78.
So 79, if we're going to have a positive motion, I would like it to include the words portion of on that second bullet, so,
Yep. The same as the bullet above.
right. May I have a motion on 79?
Motion to adopt as written with the addition of the words portion of in the second
Okay.
bullet.
So portion of map 88, parcel 67? Okay.
Yes.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Article 80.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Well, I guess what I'm rejecting to is, it's actually the Board of Selectmen comment. Looks like it's still a little...
I think
It's got a comment within the comment. What's the problem again?
that, No, they dropped that.
That was from yesterday.
Oh, that's
That
yesterday.
was
Okay,
fixed it
that was
today.
the old
Yep.
one.
Okay, no, sorry.
That's
I'm
what-
I was
looking-
doing-
I am looking at the old,
Yeah,
That's what I was doing earlier.
that was the old one.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve, or motion to adopt the Finance Committee motion as written, and we have a second. All in favor?
aye.
Aye,
Aye,
aye, aye.
sorry.
Great, thank you.
I was doing the
Or in the
same.
moment.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
afraid we had
No,
a
I
hiccup
just
at the
I
last
was
minute.
scrolling through too.
Okay, 81, this is the portions of Lincoln Avenue. May I have a motion?
Wait, can I just ask a question first?
Please.
What do you perceive the actual role of the real estate committee to be relative to this?
The Real Estate Committee will advise the Board of Selectmen as to the value of the land. So before
I
the
see.
land swap is consummated, they would make a recommendation. And I think maybe that also has to be reviewed by Andrew? The recommendations of the Real Estate Committee before land swaps are,
He participates in the Real Estate Advisory Committee.
got it,
So
okay,
He's at their meetings, usually.
great. So this authorizes the Board of Selectmen to acquire the land and then 82 will authorize the Board of Selectmen to convey it to the owners who have been paying taxes. Sometime between those two transactions, the Real Estate Committee will meet and provide a recommendation as to the market value.
So, sorry, I'm just not as up to speed on these swaps. The land shows as town land, but because they've been paying taxes on it as if it were their land, it's sort of encumbered to the town. And so
Right.
the town will get rid of those
Yeah, so-
encumbrances and then transfer it back as the mechanism.
I would assume that the Real Estate Committee is going to calculate the market value if it was unencumbered, and then they'll say, now we're likely to lose a lawsuit if somebody, because they've been paying taxes on it since 1948. I would think that that's part of their calculus.
I don't think,
These don't just typically come up in this part of town. That's why
Right.
it raises an eyebrow a little more here than
Yeah.
somewhere out in... Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would recommend to anybody watching at home not to go treat this land as if it is town land even before these conveyances happen. Okay, Article 81 on its own. May I have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 82, we have a motion for also.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
83, there's 83 and 84, there's commentary on the motion, so maybe we'll hold on those.
Hold on those.
Okay. 85,
And 86, move not to
yeah,
adopt.
Mr.
as
Ryder
a
was here
block.
to talk about 85, so I think we're moving in the direction of not to adopt 85.
Right.
Okay, may I have a motion on 85?
Motion not to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Article 86, I suppose it should also be not to adopt. This can't be done without 85 in any case.
Motion not to adopt on 86.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 87 does not have a motion. Do we want to, well, we don't have much to talk about at a subsequent meeting. Maybe we can include that, and we can find out in the interim if there was any concern from Chief Pittman or anyone else about these parcels. Okay.
Good.
And 88, we already acted on?
No, that was the citizens article. We're going to ask the sewer commissioner or the sewer.
Right.
Yes,
We
we
were
want
going to
more
find
information.
out from David Gray. And 89 and 90 we did act on, so that
Correct.
brings us to the end.
Well done.
Great.
All that for the battery.
Thank you all. We're not far past 6 o'clock, and we didn't have to meet Wednesday. This has been a pretty productive week.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Who needs that, Chairman, Mr. Gray?
Yeah. Exposed. When is our next meeting?
See, the other way to look at it is David goes on vacation, we get to do all the work.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's March
Yeah,
5th.
he only presided over 3 motions this
Are we
year.
adjourned?
So nothing, a motion to adjourn?
No, I'd like to set or find out when our next meeting is.
March 5th.
March 5th.
4
Monday,
o'clock.
March 5th,
4 o'clock.
here.
Yes.
We have two left on the schedule, we still have
Correct.
Okay.
I will not be here.
Who-
for this.
Acting as chairman, who can I ask to look into, if somebody's not already taken on the responsibility to look into that sunset clause? Is Libby going to look into that? You're already looking into it. Thank you. My job's very easy. Appreciate it. All right, so then we are adjourned. Or do I need to ask for that?
Motion adjourned.
Motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
Thank you.
Second, double second.
Thank you, Brian, Julia, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie.